Ardenbrook, a city alive with music, culture, and the heartbeat of a world-class symphony. But what if that heartbeat could stop? It began with a feeling, a quiet unease creeping through the streets, a mist settling over the city. Then, one by one, the musicians started dying. No signs of struggle. No warning. Just the music, and the crescendo that killed. Detective Mara Keegan was about to uncover a truth more terrifying than any killer she had ever faced, a force that turned music itself into a weapon. A symphony of death, orchestrated with perfect precision. And tonight, we dive into the chilling story of Ardenbrook, where some melodies are eternal, and some killers linger forever. It started with a feeling, a foreboding sense of unease. Not a musical note, not yet. Just a quiet tension that settled over Ardenbrook like a mist. The city had always taken pride in its culture, galleries, poetry nights, and most of all, the Ardenbrook Symphony Orchestra. It was the heartbeat of the city, the pulse that made Ardenbrook feel alive. But that heartbeat was about to falter. It was a Tuesday in late March when the first tragedy struck. Violinist Clara Henson was found in her apartment, slumped over her instrument, the bow still in her hand. No signs of struggle, no forced entry. Just stillness. The medical examiner initially suspected sudden cardiac arrest. But there was one detail that refused to fit. Clara's sheet music was open at a very specific measure, the crescendo of Beethoven's 7th Symphony, second movement. At first, it seemed like a coincidence. By the time the second musician died, that sense of coincidence vanished entirely. Jonathan Reed, the orchestra's principal cellist, collapsed during a rehearsal, moments after the same measure filled the hall. No one saw anyone approach him. No one heard a sound apart from the music itself. The conductor insisted rehearsals continue, calling it fluke, but the pattern was impossible to ignore. Each death was tied to that precise piece, as if the music itself were exacting punishment. Detective Mara Keegan had just transferred to Ardenbrook's Major Crimes Unit. She had seen her share of strange cases, but this was different. Every detail pointed to deliberate design. Every death was clean, precise, and inexplicably linked to the same symphony. Her first interviews were with the conductor, Lionel Gray, a man in his 60s with a voice both commanding and haunted. "It's as if the music itself is cursed," he said. "Each death. I feel it in the vibrations. I feel them, and then they're gone." Mara made careful notes but didn't comment. Grief often masquerades as mysticism, but there was a gnawing sense that something profoundly unnatural was at work. Weeks passed. Each rehearsal was tense. Musicians watched one another, suspicion sharpened by fear. Many quit, abandoning the orchestra altogether. But others, stubborn or reckless, refused to leave the music they loved. Then came the spring concert. The hall was packed, tickets long sold out. Mara had eyes everywhere, cameras, monitors, every angle covered. She sensed that the killer would strike again. The overture began. Applause filled the hall. Everything seemed normal. The violins, cellos, flutes, and oboes moved in perfect harmony. Then came the second movement of Beethoven's 7th. The crescendo hummed through the hall, subtle but electric. It started with the flutist, Martin Hale, collapsing mid-note. At first, no one noticed, the audience thought it part of the performance. Panic rippled across the stage. The clarinetist dropped his instrument. Mara's monitors revealed nothing suspicious, no one approached, no weapon, no disturbance. And yet, one by one, musicians fell, each death perfectly synchronized with that same musical measure. The audience remained oblivious. Some thought it was shock theater, part of the act. Some cheered, thinking it staged. Mara watched, frozen, as the final percussionist fell to the floor, the last echoing note fading into silence. Ardenbrook erupted in chaos. The media covered the killings non-stop. Theories ranged from a deranged serial killer intimately familiar with music to supernatural curses targeting the soul through sound. Mara combed through evidence tirelessly. Autopsies revealed nothing immediately conclusive. Security footage showed nothing. Fingerprints were clean. It was as if the killer existed in the space between sound and silence. Months passed. The orchestra disbanded. Musicians fled. Ardenbrook became quiet, anxious. But Mara couldn't let it go. Something about the deaths, the pattern, gnawed at her, a rhythm she couldn't name. She returned to Clara Henson's apartment. The sheet music was still open at that same measure. And then she saw it. It wasn't just the measure, not just the crescendo. Each death had occurred during a sequence that mirrored the killer's own heartbeat. Post-mortem studies confirmed it. When exposed to that precise sequence of notes, the musicians' hearts went into fatal arrhythmia. Someone had weaponized sound. The thought made her stomach churn. Impossible, yet every test confirmed it. Music had become the medium, the weapon, and someone, somewhere, had become the composer of death. She spoke to surviving musicians, one by one. Most recalled nothing unusual, until she met Helen Morris, the former harpist. Withdrawn and nervous, she spoke in fragments. "It wasn't just music," she said. "It's the timing. The notes, the timing of the notes. I tried to warn Lionel. I tried. But no one understood. The pattern, it's alive. It changes. It waits. It chooses." Mara finally understood. This wasn't simple murder. This wasn't just obsession or vendetta. The killer had become a composer in the darkest sense, orchestrating life and death with perfect precision. Only Beethoven's Seventh contained the fatal sequence. Nothing else in the repertoire came close. Then one day, Mara received a package at the precinct. Inside was a single sheet of music, handwritten, anonymous. She recognized it instantly, a new arrangement of Beethoven's same movement, annotated with minute tempo and dynamic adjustments. It was a blueprint. A taunt. She didn't have a name. She didn't have a face. But she had a message. The orchestration wasn't over. Someone was still composing. Ardenbrook never recovered. Musicians avoided the symphony hall. Patrons feared the music that once brought them joy. Mara kept the sheet music in a locked safe, sometimes staring at it late at night, trying to hear it in her mind without letting it take hold. And sometimes, when the wind shifts through the city's empty streets, she swears she hears it, the faintest violin, the softest bass, the whisper of someone taking their last breath to a melody that refuses to end. Because some music is eternal. And some killers, like a perfect chord, linger forever.